Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's New Cyber Frontier.
Welcome to today's episode of New Cyber Frontier. On today's episode, we have Dejan Milošević, and I'm going to let him pronounce his name and fix it in a minute, but works for Hewlett-Packard Labs, which is part of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise as a PhD, and works with the IEEE Future Directions Committee, and has been the driving force behind an industry advisory board Megatrends report, which is what we're going to talk about today. Dejan, pronounce your name for everybody. Correct my pronunciation. I know it's a rough one for me.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Dejan Milošević, and you're pretty good. I mean, some people would translate it to other languages, so you didn't do that.
Yeah. So give us a little bit about you personally, your life story, your background, how you got to where you're at, interested in these type of things.
Okay. So I'm originally from Belgrade, Serbia. That's where I went to in important order events. And probably what influenced my career most is that I walked to my elementary school, then I walked to my high school, and then I walked to university. That's probably rare. And increasingly it was further and further, between 5 minutes and 12 minutes. And then I started working in Belgrade for about 8 years. Then I went to the East Coast for 5 years, and last 25 plus years I've been here in Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. So you've been with HP the whole time?
Yeah, all time with Hewlett-Packard Labs. It used to be called HP Labs, then the company split. So this is the first time, sometimes you go away from company went away from me. Because when I worked on the East Coast, I had to drive 3 hours a day. When I came to Silicon Valley, I said, I'm going to walk, like my history. And that's a common theme. And I did, but then the headquarters moved away from Palo Alto to San Jose and Milpitas, and then they moved all the way to Texas, so it's a little bit harder to walk there.
And there was a big presence where I'm at in Colorado Springs. They still have a big building there, but it was, I think the headquarters, I'm not sure if it was the first one, but it's back in the 70s, I think. So
yeah, they're still in Fort Collins.
Fort Collins, okay. Yeah, I think they still have HPE, which is their facility here in Colorado Springs, is split off into that part of the company. But definitely one of the staples around here, as far as even the whole reason for the university that I went to most recently existing, was the David Hewlett required that to build his campus here. He said, the town has to build me a university so we can have a pool of students to pull from.
Yeah, that's well-known reason for companies starting their labs in various places. Not only customers, but good source of people who are educated in local universities. That's why Silicon Valley is well known for innovation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to talk about this Megatrend report, but first we're going to take a break here from our sponsors. But this is really exciting because I think this is on par with some of the biggest Wall Street analytic firm releases for technology and the direction. And this release is from a neutral party through IEEE and Future Directions. We'll be right back in a minute to talk to Dejan some more.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. On again today with Dehon Milojevic. And I know that I probably got that a little bit wrong, but you could say it as many times as you want. And I'm sure it will take me a couple
It's
years.
better every time.
It's okay, good. I'm glad I got better. So now we want to talk about the background of the Future Directions Committee Industry Advisory Board Megatrends report that will be linked on the show. Everybody should be looking at this or go check it out when the show is over. This I will be the definitive direction and technology for the world, I think. But tell us about the background of coming up to this release.
Yeah, so it all started about 2009, 2010, when we held within Computer Society Industry Advisory Board, and it was held somewhere on the East Coast in one of the big contractor companies. And at the end of the meeting, which wasn't that productive, I have to be honest, one of the marketing managers asked, "Can we do predictions of technology?" She wanted to do it for, their editorial calendars and other things. And I remember we raised arms and we did some predictions, et cetera, et cetera. And that was the first time. Second time, we started using Post-it notes. Third time, we organized even more. Fourth time, we came up with the diagrams. I still remember it was our confidence versus likelihood of predicting. And, the long story short, we suddenly came up with 5 variable diagrams, which very coherently and eloquently, yet compliant with the mission of IEEE, communicated our predictions for technologies for the next year. But this is not about this story. This story was based on these technology predictions. About 2 years ago, I was asked, "Can you, Dan, help us with megatrends?" IEEE was doing a lot of roadmaps, they're doing standards, et cetera. So they felt they need something even before that. And technology predictions, they change from year to year. They wanted something that is big, everyone wants big things. And they wanted something that is long and that people will, stay and gather behind it. So they called it megatrends. So it took us 2 years. Chris may think it's easy, although you were traveling with us that path, but it took us 2 years to take this experience with technology predictions and turn it into megatrends. First of all, megatrends had to be defined. So we had all kinds of definitions. I'm not going to go through them. You can read it in the report. But what Chris and I realized, everybody wanted their favorite technology to be megatrend. Favorite one was health. Say, but Dan, health is most important. Then a person comes and say, but Dan, ethics is a megatrend, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to please them all somehow and to gather them behind the mission and travel with them because they were all bringing extremely valuable insights, whether we agreed with them. I mean, many times I was wrong, so it wasn't my vision only, it was the consensus of this group. Everyone had to give in, but the end result was what we really liked, and we were all happy. It's definition of these 3 megatrends. And the only thing that I will conclude here is that we defined 3 of them, and these are first, digital transformation, the second one, sustainability, and the third one, artificial general intelligence. And we wondered quite a bit about the last one. First, we thought it was metaverse, but during our process, generative AI just took off like crazy. It was obvious to us that generative AI in its own right is not a mega trend, but it's part of something bigger, which is even bigger of AI, and we call it artificial general intelligence.
Interesting. So tell me about the makeup of the people. In the report, you can look at it. There's a bunch of the contributors and everything. But over that time, it's 2 years of putting together a release, and we hope that that was just the leading one. So now it's a little bit quicker if we continue to do it every year or something. But tell us about the makeup of that board and the diversity of information you got across it.
Yeah. So if I go in the history a little bit longer, it was just maybe 4, 5, 6 of us who started these technology predictions. Then we grew the team slowly to dozens, 16, 20, 30, 40 this year. With Megatrends, I inherited Industry Advisory Board. So the late Roberto Saracco, who I always have to give credit, who passed away the beginning of this year, had Industry Advisory Board which was originally chartered to do Megatrends. So I inherited about 24 people, but not all participated, and they were never attending any of these meetings, which was expected. So he would just communicate with them one-on-one. I turned it in a different way of communication, but they were, for me, remote people. But then I would come and present the local board every time, 3 times a year. And I realized they are equally important, if not more important, than this official industry advisory board. And first I put them separately, then eventually I just merged them. And everyone is equal, everyone has a voice, we all talk. In the end, I kind of break all the ties. But in addition, what Chris may not know is we've done a lot of work in parallel universes. So we've done a couple of things. IEEE Computer Magazine, which goes to, I think, about 100,000 audience, every issue 12 times a year. I had quarterly column called Predictions. So first I went everywhere, but then I realized, why don't I write about megatrends? So that turned out to be a great food for our process. Because we were able to write a proper article about something, and then we picked up just those things that are important. And those articles were usually done by 4 or 5 people in the right area. So I would pick experts in those areas and write it. Then I bring back to the whole audience. And there were examples where they corrected me. For example, for AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, the person who wrote original predictions for that was very pessimistic, okay? So he had 4 cases where, humanity will suffer and only 1 where we will benefit. And then I brought it back. If you remember, Chris, I think you were there. It might have been even you who said, well, Dan, there's no case where AGI will fail. And that's not inconceivable at all, because if you remember, those of us who are a little bit older, about 20, 30 years ago, AI was on the rise, and then it went down. It was more like 40 years. And then it went down, it was nowhere to be seen. So AGI may as well go away. Generative AI might have been the best, most popular thing in the town, but there'll be a new kid in the town next year. So we added that one. So that's how we've done it. And then during these board meetings, I would present to everyone, Future Directors Committee. Then I had a session, 2 hours, only with the members who come to that session. I don't know how it wasn't planned. I just ended up coming in the middle of the room, and people will come to this meeting prepared with tomatoes, apples, and they will start throwing at me. But in the end, it all benefited to substantial quality of the final report. Because through this dialogue, we got a lot, I would say. But Chris is there to agree or disagree with me.
Yeah, I would say that I would have to commend you on your ability to herd the cats. One of the most talented people I've ever met is standing in a room with people, back with their tomatoes. Now, and this is metaphorical. It's actually just, hey, everybody has their opinion, and sometimes if their opinion isn't representing what they're seeing, they're going to let you know. And especially when they're all experts from every field around the world coming together. And your ability to navigate that environment was, probably the best I've ever seen in my life. So I have to commend your ability to manage this adverse situation in the way you did. So definitely one of my new heroes, and I'll say that publicly. That every time I talk about what's going on in Future Directions Industry Advisory, I'm like, and this guy is just able to absorb this room of almost haters and come out with something beautiful. So we're going to take a break here from our sponsors. Then we're going to come right back and talk some more about this. Be right back.
Blockframe Technology offers next-generation blockchain managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. On today with Dehon Milošević. And I don't know if I'm getting worse or better, but talking about the future direction, the IEEE Future Directions Industry Advisory Board Megatrend report that check it out in the link on this podcast. We're not going to, we're recording this ahead of time, but we're not going to release it until after this report goes live, some big press releases. And Dehon, I complimented you on managing this environment, putting it together, the background. So a lot of people, you know, for the last couple of years, I haven't known a good neutral advisement on what the future of technology looks like. It's usually from Wall Street, from companies that have a vested interest in pushing their agenda, from particular big corporations that maybe, you know, getting a message out to their user base, and then that weeds into other companies' user bases. And it's almost like their neutral body hasn't existed on this. And I think that's one of the big things you offer. Let's talk about how this compares to other, you know, releases from industries like in Wall Street and the financial industry, and the neutrality of this and what this brings to the table.
So I have actually spoken, I've done my homework midway, not before that. I spoke to market analysts. I told them, I presented to them literally our interim versions, and they asked me whether I followed this or that methodology, and I didn't. This was just result of us working through it. And they said they pretty much do things in a similar way. What they do, what market analysts do, they go around the industry, they collect the input, and then they put it together. Now, the difference is that we have, as Chris pointed out, a vast number of experts in many areas, and these experts are really contributing their opinion. So in a way, I don't have to go to thousands of people, which market analysts do, in order to get credible information. I'm relying on the true experts in the area, and then we go through some processes which we establish to first collect information, then size that number to those that we all believe, and then we grade them. And in the process, based on our experience, we merge them a little bit, model them, tweak them in time, scope, etc. But ultimately, we go until everyone's happy. So that's this process. Now, I have to admit that we're also biased, or maybe I wouldn't say the word bias, but we are following the agenda of IEEE. IEEE its tagline is advancing technology for the benefit of humanity. So it took us a number of years. It didn't just happen that our graphs that we put together are reflecting exactly that tagline. We are on the x-axis on the projected predictions. We are putting the likelihood of success of technology, or the megatrend, and on y-axis we are putting the benefit to humanity. And then we put also other things, but that's the main message. And in a way, we may not be as strong as market analysts because we don't focus that much on market size, and all we do is really relative comparison, which is good enough for our purpose. So we wouldn't say absolutely what is the TAM, total accessible market, for this or that technology, but we can compare between one or the other based on the profound experience of our team members.
You know, I think when you said bias, I think if you look at most market analyst research, the bias is towards making money, where the bias here is towards bettering humanity. So you can take your bias with a grain of salt and say, which bias do I want to look at? As far as, if I'm strictly looking at investing, I want to know, you know, what's going to make the most money. I might be happy in that realm. But it is that balance that I think is a true value, is it's looking at things from that different perspective, because I don't know of any other, we'll say, neutral, non-financially oriented research, because that's usually, you know, if you're not making money, why are you doing the work, and how are you getting people to work on it? Where with IEEE, you know, what, 450,000 members pay money to be part of it. to be associated with technologists. So it's a different set of people a little bit, but you also had some great, and you look at this report and see the people that contributed to it, but some great industry leaders, not just academics, not just engineers, not, there was across the board that I think you did a great job of selecting people. And a lot of those are influenced by the market reports and had the financial. So you kind of had the balance in your ability to select.
Yes, and I just want to point out that as an afterthought, not coming in, we've done, we tried to get some outside opinions. We have these three megatrends. And then I said, well, can we see what Google Trends thinks about this?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw, that, for example, digital transformation is not as interesting nowadays as are sustainability and AI, which are intertwining and are dominating. Then we went to IEEE Explore, our digital library. We see that artificial intelligence simply killed the other two, so it's dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to USPTO, and we look there, and then there we have seen the digital transformation is leading, followed by the sustainability, and then AI is trailing. So you can see this obvious bias. Who you ask? Google
Mm-hmm.
Trends is following buzz today. Scientists, they are rushing to do the research in the most interesting technology today. And then patents and industry are looking more backwards.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, patents, most of those that are filed today, patent application, it will take at least 18 months. But even then, you go for the most stable and technology that will bring money. So
Mm-hmm.
you have these three views, which speak exactly to your earlier point, Chris, that we're trying to be neutral and provide how it looks today. Now, what we've also done, which is coming to you, you may not be aware of that, but for technology predictions at the end of the year, because we usually release technology predictions at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, we do scorecard. And the
Mm-hmm.
scorecard is done by self-evaluation. So all those people who predicted at the beginning of the year do another round of grading, and then I compare them. And some there are some striking things which you think, yeah, that's obvious, but it wasn't obvious before you looked at it, like the on-ramp of generative AI as of recently, which might be obvious, but it wasn't obvious, for example, for security area, which is close to your heart and this audience's heart, how deeply it influenced it. As an example, and then I'll stop there, is in the all past years, misinformation and managing misinformation was always one of the most predicted topics, but at the end of the year, it always failed
Mm-hmm.
because it was never possible to make progress. We're hoping this is the year when the progress will be made. No. Next year, no. Next year, no. Suddenly, we see it with generative AI and other things. There's much more promise. Now, obviously, at the end of the year, we'll see whether that promise was made. But both misinformation, advancement in cybersecurity were highly ranked.
Interesting. And that's one of the things that always interests me as far as a full study, a big effort like this. That's one thing, but what else did you find out in the course of this work that you didn't expect to, that was just like, wow?
Well, it's just this notion and how to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, it took me a while because we do these technology predictions year by year by year by year. Say I'll just do the megatrends, but it took me more than 2 years to put them together.
Mm-hmm.
First, to figure out what these megatrends are, and then, okay, so now we define these megatrends. What are we going to report next year? If next year there's another set of megatrends, then these weren't megatrends. So what I realized is that we need to go to the next level of detail.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt, we have megatrends, we have technology predictions. Should they be together? Will one make the other obsolete? No, because megatrends, they have their own technologies which are tied to them. And then you have these technology predictions which are separate, untied to anything. And so this whole process was new to me, and how from year to year it changed. The one probably most surprising thing for me was success, because I'm not sure if you've seen that. I've done the table after a number of years once we started grading them. And I noticed that we were year after year successful in some technologies and very unsuccessful in other technologies. And then there were some that would go from success to failure, from failure to success, and on and on. So, and then you can see, well, it was obvious that AI will be successful. And it might be obvious this year and last year, but we started making these predictions for the last 6 years. And every year there was really update, which a lot of people didn't notice, but it was first arrival of accelerators, then arrival of tools, and then we slowly came to generative AI, etc. What was also surprising to me, and I was trying to it was me actually who failed in predicting security. For a number of years, I was working on fine grain protection. And that's for those who are deeper in system software, there are capability-based security models. And I believe that ARM, who came with the model, implemented something from Cambridge University, it was called Cherry Model, will just take off. And I kept on predicting year after year and it just didn't happen. So these fundamental changes, unless and until they are really required by market, won't happen.
Yeah.
So from then on, I became really a strong proponent of looking at the market needs rather than very promising technology. So these are some examples
Interesting.
of things that surprise me.
So in terms of like the Mythbusters, was there the hidden thing in there that just was like, oh, this busted what we thought would happen, and we had to change our outlook?
Well, one was really this metaverse. We felt that metaverse will be one of the mega trends that, using digital twins, all these goggles, it was just killing it. Okay.
Hmm.
Then suddenly it went down, and then generative AI came up and we switched. So that was, for me, we even wrote the first paper of these three mega trends was on metaverse. We
I
wrote it.
remember that.
Then we backtracked. We made mistake.
Mhm. Or you had to step back and include that in the mega trend, which was combining AI,
It
metaverse.
was part of, yeah, exactly. It was part of the AGI, but it wasn't in its own right Megatron. And I'm sure it will come back eventually in
Yeah.
some form. But yeah,
So yeah, I see that it was like you had to step back from the technology to the category, the mega trend, the category of all the technologies that fit into that. And
yeah,
the things that it sounds also like I heard the things that we think that are passionate about, we have to separate from reality a little bit.
yeah,
And that's, hurting all those cats that have worked 40 years in their technology. And that's the greatest thing because of their sunk cost fallacy might even be the way to word that, the amount of time that they have in it.
yeah.
It's
And
important.
and ethics is another example. You would think ethics is a megatrend because everyone's talking about it. Well, no, it's one of the principles, one of the human principles, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ethics, and things like that. They're central to anything, but they're not
Uh-huh.
megatrends. And the other thing that took me a while to realize is that technology megatrends are only some of the megatrends. There are other megatrends. There are economical megatrends, there are social political megatrends, and there are ecological megatrends. And one has to differentiate. They all tie together and influence each other. So
Yeah.
that's why we put all these lay of land, all these diagrams, so that we get all on the same page. Now that we have this report, subsequent members, there's a lot of people, because I gave talks about this, who would like, a lot of people reached out to me. We grew from 20 to 50 in a matter of a few months. And I'm sure other people will come, so that there's the curse and the blessing of success. So we'll
Yeah.
have to come up with new scaling model and how to grow it from dealing with trucks of tomatoes, not just a few in the room.
Yeah. Great. I mean, it's been amazing work, kind of reaching the end of the time here. Is there anything that you need help with, you'd like to get out to our audience to engage with you on, or next generations, or even with your work with Hewlett Packard?
Well, we always look for the feedback. We understand that we might have missed a lot of things. So email me or email Future Directions through Chris or directly. The report has my pointers. I'm always interested. If you're interested in contributing, tell me how you would want to contribute. And we are looking forward to work with everyone who has some vision and mission, because the reason we do this is not to get on this podcast, which is amazing, but to help humanity, and help raise the bar of where technology is going.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Definitely. Thank you for being on today. And look for the link in our write-up to the IEEE Future Directions Committee Industry Advisory Board Megatrends report. Everybody should be digesting this and circulating it, because I believe it'll be the definitive work in technology futures moving forward. So thank you, Dan, for joining.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Right. Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach